tonight. This is, it's our master class that we do every Monday night, and I'm so honored to have Mikki McGill with us. She is an expert here at Circles. And Mikki, you're a divorce mediator. Is that kind of what you're, in addition to your other, nine jobs that I'm sure you have, and doing the facilitation at Circles here is one of our experts.
Yeah, I have my own private practice called Great River Mediations, and my primary work function is that I am a family mediator specializing in divorce, particularly the financial side, as a
Okay.
CDFA, a certified divorce financial analyst.
Wow, that's exciting. Like, what a cool job. And I've not met too many people like you in this field, especially focusing on the finance and, and especially in divorce. I mean, like, how did you get started in that?
Yeah. So I really, I didn't start in the financial part. I was in grad school and I was exposed to mediation at that time. And I thought, this is the best part of anything that I've ever come across, or the best part of my education. I'm like, how do I do this? And at that time, I had a full-time career, in finance, and, there wasn't really room and I didn't know how to move forward with it. So later on, when there was a opportunity to move forward with mediation, I did that. And I just realized a lot of people we're not here to talk about the financial part here, but I realized a lot of people weren't paying attention to how important that piece was. So that's how I got involved in that. And I'm actually, where I went into mediation was as a certified transformative mediator. There's about 150 of us in the world. And it focuses on the quality of the emotional conversations and conflict that people have. So,
Oh
yeah.
my God. Like that's so, and there's 150 of you worldwide, and that's it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
Nikki, that's so cool. Like that's just so what a gift that you have.
Well,
Wow.
I just,
Hey,
yeah.
go ahead. This is your space. Go ahead.
Well, I just thought that, this is so many times here on Circles, I get to be a facilitator and I so appreciate, and that's such an, humbling, really precious role that I get to be here, and I appreciate that. And I thought this might be an opportunity tonight to kind of talk, where I'm usually listening and supporting, talk a little bit about separation and divorce and some of the options that are out there for people, because believe it or not, especially this time of year, and there are seasons that are heavier for this, people are really stressed out in their relationships, and the holidays especially amplify, right? And make it harder with expectations and really, pile the stress onto what's already there. So that's why I
Yes.
wanted to kind of come on tonight.
Yes. Well, I'm glad that we're talking about this. Hey, Patty. Hi, Ashley. And I know people, they'll pop in off and on throughout the group. But, Nikki, thank you for sharing your expertise with us. I mean, this is really a real treat for us. But, as we get into this, can you talk a little bit more about something that you just hit on? Because we are coming up on holidays this week. And
Yeah.
and hey, Patty, I see your hand there. And we're gonna swing around to your question, and but I just want to touch on the holiday thing because I know in my
Yeah.
groups this week it's gonna be a theme as well because a lot of trauma comes up, a lot of grief comes up. You just said there's a kind of seasons for people going through divorce, which I think is interesting, and I'd love to hear about that too. But as we're preparing for this first big holiday of the kids, the kickoff, right, of the
Mhm.
big holiday season ahead, Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I know a lot of people are going to be experiencing a lot of issues, this
Yeah,
time of year.
sure, sure. Even if we weren't in a marriage relationship or a partner relationship, this time of year just brings up so much memories and trauma. Sorry, for so many people. It can for ourselves, it can for our spouse. And so it just really heightens all of the conversations that are going on, both on the inside of our heads, on the inside of us, and on the outside between one another, and those dynamics that happen. So it's just really, I think it's important during this time, especially to be aware of your needs and take some inventory, and step back and, determine, how you can do some self-care during this time to get through the holidays, whether that's with your spouse, whether that's in a separated kind of situation, or maybe you're going through a divorce, right? So whatever that situation might be, the holidays definitely bring up trauma and can be more traumatic, right? To what's
Yes.
going on, whether it's family expectations or just trying to navigate life.
Yes. Oh my God, we're all having a human experience regardless, of our relationship status, that's for sure. Hey Beth, welcome. So Patty, you got your hand up, honey. Go ahead. This is your room, you guys. This is a space for you to ask questions. Mikki is an expert in this field. Divorce, separation, mediation, finance. She does it all. So you guys ask away.
Okay, I was wondering, I'm at that process. Well, not at mediations yet. I put the court order in, the divorce order, and he's supposed to be served the summons all. But we weren't married a year, and I can tell you, uh, we didn't buy anything together. We didn't sell anything together. Our bank accounts are separate. I don't know what to expect. I mean, my house, I had a house, and what I done is before I got married, I put it in my daughter's name. Before I moved in with him. And he hasn't done anything here. He hasn't paid for anything. He hasn't put one penny in. He hasn't done any repairs. I mean, there's like nothing. He hasn't touched the house at all. And it's in my daughter's name anyway. But I've done some things there, but all I'm wanting out of the whole deal is just to get the signature. I mean, because we don't have any kids together either, so it's like I don't know what would be expectable at something like that.
Yeah, that's a great question, Patty. And I'll give that caveat in that I am not an attorney and I cannot provide you with attorney advice. And a lot of times there are intricacies, in your state, in your area that override from one location to the next. However, generally with no kids together, you're going to be obviously a lot simpler that way. It sounds like that you have some savvy in the sense that you've kept your bank accounts separate, and that can be helpful in divorce. It kind of depends on for your state how things roll, whether you're an equitable distribution state or you're a common where everything's equal state, community property state.
Yeah, it's Florida. It's I think equitable one. Yeah.
Yeah. So, a lot of times in these short-term marriages where there hasn't been a lot of the financial crossover, it's not as much to peel back. And you may find that it may be a fairly easy process if he's willing to cooperate. It does sound like, though, that was it you that filed?
Yeah, is it because it was it was abusive and mentally everything. It was bad, and I had to go, and I just don't know. Like I said, when I'm looking back at it now, I just know how I stayed in it so long. But that's where most of all of us that way. Yeah. But
I'm so sorry. Yeah,
yeah.
nobody should have to go through that, Patty. And I'm really sorry to hear that I'm glad that you're out, and not having to really go through that mental abuse.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes it sounds like it may not have been a good option in your situation just because you were trying to get out as fast as you could. There are different ways to file it's quite common. Sometimes people file, where filing is, you can do it together, actually.
Yeah.
Jointly.
What I filed was, well, the dissolution of marriage. I filed it, no assets, no liabilities, no children. Oh, no, and no property. Because we didn't exchange anything. We didn't change signatures on
Okay.
nothing. Yeah. So I went for the
Yeah.
simplest, uncontested. That's what I went for. Yeah.
Okay. And then whether there will, do you know if there'll be disclosure where, each of you will have to, show your finances and all of that and your property?
Yeah, the only thing I have is, well, he has a fund, his mom passed away, and I guess mom and dad, and they sold the property, and the two brothers, they split like their own, like a stock kind of thing, portfolio.
Yeah.
And he has a lot in that, and I don't, like I said, I don't want anything. I just want a signature. I want to come in, go out like I came in, and the only mistake I made is I probably should have got a prenup. Yeah, I didn't really think of that, and I don't even know if he would have signed it, because I tell you what, we got married. He started after we got married November 19th. A month after, right after Christmas, he started to try to go after stuff. Like he says, well, I got my truck and my trailer. He says, I can put you down as beneficiary. He said, I can't put your name on it because, this and that happened to me in the past with some other girlfriend he had. He bought a truck or something with, or bought some kind of van or something for it. But he says, and then I didn't say anything, next day he says, well, I'm adamant about this, and that kind of thing. And he was wanting me to put his name on my stuff. I know that's what he was after. And then he started going after the house, like, we need to sell it and have April, my daughter, buy her a little piece of land and a little trailer or something. And we need to do this, or we need to get her to sell it or to buy it from you for so much a month. And she needs to own something. And he tried to get me to change that. And I should have said something that it was in her name, but I just want to see how far he was going to go with it. He tried to go for it 8 different times. So I knew that's what he's after, but I'm lucky I put it in her name before marriage. I didn't, because I worked I raised my kids myself, and I lived in a mobile home, which is the one that I have now. It's, in fact, my son is living in that. That's his home. Anyway, it's one of them old trailers. It's got the flat roof on it, and you have to put the white sealer on with a brush to keep it from leaking. Yeah, it's an old trailer. It's an old trailer. But the thing is I still have that. But I signed my son. I signed the title over to my son, but he never brought it over there to put it in his name. And I said, well, you can't do it now. You got to wait. You got to wait now. You can't change nothing. So
well, changing it after your divorce, that's a gift, and whether or not can depend on where you are in the laws there as to whether or not you're able to give that gift. That could get into something. If it was given before your marriage, that might be that would be a different situation. And what you're really talking about is commingling assets and properties,
right?
Where whose is what.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it sounds like you've been sharper than the normal person, and more aware of how things work overall, Patty. I wouldn't think that you would have a lot of problems, but what, it kind of depends on what he shows up with, sometimes, right?
Well, see, he's now, see, I have to show my W-2s. Well, I don't know how far back they go, because just that year we were married, or I don't know. Because, see, this year here, I worked up till June full time. Then I went to work in like a couple days a week. Sometimes they give me 1 day a week, because my Social Security started in September. I got one check in September when we were married. Well, I'm 22 now. But anyway, well, then come August, 8th, I fell down on the porch because the dog tripped me with the thing, and she seen a squirrel. Anyways, I fell down. I broke my hip. So I was without
Wow.
work for quite a bit. Yeah. So I wasn't
You've been through a lot, Patty.
this year. Yeah, this year has
It-
been
Okay.
really
This has not been.
been a bad.
This is right. No, you know what though? It's okay. It's almost over, and we're in transition, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I
Yes.
know, right?
So if I got to
So
go by
you're
my income this year, which was the year we're married, I don't have a whole lot. So, but if they go back
Mhm.
2-3 years, that's before we were married.
Yeah.
So I
right.
don't know what they're gonna do.
But yeah, here's the thing: you've got your sanity, you've got
Mhm.
you get, you got hopefully what you came in with, and
Yeah,
you know, and it's going to get better, and you've had the wherewithal to leave. And it's
yeah,
unfortunate that this is, it's along with this stuff, Mickey, when people are so, separating and divorce, and I know, and we'll get into, how do you decide to leave, and I mean, in Patty's situation might be a little bit different because it may be a little bit more clear cut, and she just said, I've had enough. But, like deciding to divorce, how do you, you're, how do you do it in a gracious way, I guess, or and the path of least resistance or whatever. But you know, along with these different situations, if there's grief there, because there's still it's a
Mhm.
loss of the life that you had envisioned for yourself.
Right.
So, I give you lots of love, Patty, and and
Mm.
going through this, and all of you guys who are going through this or have been through this. I know, Candy's like, there's no mediating with my ex. Yep. So, and I think, Mickey, that is a good point too, that, you have people that, we're here supporting each other and getting, resources and trying to work through this, but, you know, it's not always that easy, I would imagine, even as a mediator, when you have one party that's, wanting to move on and heal, and then you have like Candy's ex, like there's just no reasoning with people. Like, do you get that a lot in mediation?
Actually, I get a lot of people who really want to work together, and
Okay.
they really they make a lot of progress. I'm not saying that they
Okay.
agree on everything or that they always get the agreement that they, came in wanting, but they come out, I believe that they come out with a better agreement.
Okay.
And so, it's not for mediation isn't for everybody. There are many different dispute resolution ways to go. Mediation is one of them that from the courts, they will push you toward. And there's a lot of reasons for that. For the people that it works for, it actually fits their situation a lot better. Instead of having, something that the court thinks is good for your family, you can actually come up with an agreement that actually fits your family and your life better and will support you all moving forward. So there's and it's also been found that in mediation, the agreements that people have come to, they're more likely to abide by than they are the court orders. So there's some research and some study
Oh,
that's been behind it. I'm not here to defend mediation here tonight, but I
for sure.
thought maybe, talk about, I wonder who in the room is considering separating tonight.
Mhm.
I just kind of wanted to get a little bit of a idea for who's in the room. Who is considering separation tonight? Is there anybody here that's considering separation?
Are you
Just
guys
kind of
already in it? Are you already going through in it?
I haven't filed, but we're in the process of it. We had the conversation.
Okay.
You had the conversation to separate or to divorce? To divorce and
To
separate?
divorce, yeah. And so
Okay.
my job right now is I was researching the different ways to
Yeah.
divorce, and mediation seems like a pretty good, he has some tendencies that I am a little hesitant about, but I feel like at the end of the day,
Yeah.
we might be able to make it work because he doesn't like to lose money. So I guess from we're in a no-fault state in California. I've been married for 9.5 years almost. No kids, 2 cars, own a home that we pay together. He's got stock in bank accounts. I've got stock in bank accounts. So I guess as far as I said I wanted to ask for spousal support, which he said he's okay with, but I think he hedged on what, I guess one of these questions, and I know you can't provide legal advice, but how is it calculated in a place like California, state where there's community property? How is it calculated as far as spousal support? And a second question, in the general schemes of mediation, what are the best practices to reduce costs of fees and things of that sort, so that way at the end of the day, when we both sign, hopefully together, that we're able to be financially savvy with the process? So spousal support calculation, and then what are best practices to try to save money in the mediation process?
Yeah, great questions, Carly. So it sounds like one of you has decided that you're clear that you want a divorce, and you're in California, and you've been married 9.5 years, no kids, you have a cars, house, stocks, and you'd like to ask for spousal support. So with spousal support, quite often, and I'm not familiar with California in general with spousal support, but generally there is not a calculation for spousal support. There are many states have a calculator on their website for child support. And I understand child support is not an issue for you. But there's often not a calculator for spousal support. So the best way to go about it is to find out how the state looks at spousal support. Generally, spousal support cases overall across the United States, and there's some states that you just aren't going to, it's very hard to get spousal support, such as Texas and Arizona, for example. But spousal support cases are generally 10 years and up. It doesn't mean that you can't get it for less. And in mediation, you can agree to something different than what the courts would allow you. And that's one of the beautiful things about mediation. So for spousal support, generally there are 2 different ways to look at spousal support. One is to take all of the income and to split the income 50-50. That's a very high level. I have a software program. That's what I use to do it. The other general approach to spousal support is to meet the need. And so if, for example, and quite often there is an income disparity between one partner and the other, and generally, spousal support comes into play when there's a larger income disparity, right? Or some income disparity. Otherwise, there's no sense in doing that, right? Because you have about equal. So then it goes into, there are professionals that will do lifestyle analysis if people are fighting for spousal support. And you try to then keep people at the same lifestyle. And that's the argument, is, to try to avoid harm. But frankly, when it comes down to it, 2 people are not going to be able to live at the same lifestyle afterward that they were on, one income, or, when they were living in one house and living, a life together. They're not going to be able to live at the same lifestyle in general that they were previously, right? So they won't generally, they don't want to, they won't punish, and punish isn't quite the right word, but the larger income person, they won't put them out in the street. But there can be but there can be income sharing. So it's, to answer your question, it's generally either based on need, which is on budgets, and that's where each of you come up with budgets for what you need to live. And if people are adversarial and or if there's a dispute over it, that's where you can get into professionals that do lifestyle analysis. That can get expensive, and I know you're trying to avoid that, but you can decide whether or not that's important. And the other way is to split the income 50-50 so that each get to share the income. The other thing to say about spousal support is it used to be that spousal support, it used to be able to be forever, it seemed like, right? And it used to be more slanted to one sex or the other. It isn't so much these days. There are women who are paying spousal support to men as well. And it's also not given that it's going to be forever. They're usually for a season. There is an expectation that both spouses will work. And so, unless it's in retirement or there's health issues or whatever, if there was a stay-at-home mom or something or other like that, there would still be an expectation to work and earn income. It may be a spousal support case may be tiered so that it's to kind of wean off, help at the beginning more, and then wean off the spouse, say 3 to 5 years or some such down the road off of spousal support. Does that answer your question about spousal support, Carly?
Yes, it does. Thank you. He makes a little bit over 100,000 more than I do, and I'm not looking out to get him. I just want a little kind of pick me up kind of thing. It sounds like, from what I understand, it's about half of the lifespan of the marriage, so it'd be about 4.5 years at most, which is more than enough.
Yeah. Sounds like you're continuing to educate yourself, and you've already got some. So good for you on that, Carly. As far as some best practices to reduce costs and fees, mediation generally is because you are hiring one person to help the two of you cooperate instead of hiring two attorneys that generally are positioning to get all that they can for the other person, where it's more adversarial. And quite often, the people who generally I work with in my private practice, if they've spoken to an attorney, they're kind of running the other way, or maybe they started with an attorney and things just kind of got blown up. And that doesn't mean all attorneys are bad or anything like that. There's a place for them. But the court system is really, so many people say that the court system is really set up for criminals. And when families get involved in the court system, it's about, trying, unfortunately, it can go really south, particularly with parents. And I know that's not your situation, but we're, trying to, show how the other person is a bad parent and kind of criminalize the parent. So best practices, a lot of times, frankly, a lot of the people who come to me, they're wanting to save money. They're wanting not to use attorneys, and hiring one person to help you instead of two is more efficient. It can also help you to save money because you're hiring one person instead of two. It can be faster. It can save money, and it can just kind of help you move forward. I would also recommend in general, and I think this is for a more peaceful, amicable divorce, which I think is a way to reduce costs and fees, is to file together instead of filing on someone else if it's possible. It's not possible for every situation. But if you can file together, then you're just going to be able to move through that faster and more efficiently and at less cost. Did that answer your questions, Carly, and help?
Yes, I guess a follow-up question. When you say file together, because I did reach out to a local mediator that we may work with. I have to ask my husband. But she, like, example, I didn't realize, I thought because I'm we're both asking, but I asked for it a long time ago. I just was waiting for him to come around. I thought I had to like file petition, pay the filing fee, and then he would have to respond and pay the filing fee. But she informed me today that if I showed him the paperwork before I filed and he was okay with it, then he doesn't have to respond, and that saves us one of the filing fees. So is that what you
Absolutely.
mean by doing it together?
Yeah.
That we just look at each other's documents?
Absolutely. I mean, disclosure has to happen either way between you. And that's one of the things I work with clients is with that disclosure piece. But if one person is filing, the other person gets served, and it's quite often just an awful situation to undergo if they, if that's possible, and it's not always possible. And not always the right way to go, right? But the people that I work with, they don't file until they're done with me. And I work with them generally 3 months to get through the decisions and the disclosure and have the conversations that they need to have. And then they file together jointly. So it could also be a combination. The language may depend on your state. But yeah, it doesn't have to be one person files and then the other person has to respond to that filing.
And then if per se we're working with somebody like you, and it sounds like I can do this here in California as well, because she said that she can do all the paperwork in the marital settlement agreement. So if, as far as time clock, it sounds like there's a 6-month waiting period. Does that count from when you file? Because that would be the only reason I would want to kind of start the clock now versus waiting to meet with a mediator, because I want to get out of this marriage as soon as possible.
Yeah. That's a great question, and it can depend on where you are. For example, in Minnesota, there's no waiting period. And so when that clock starts, I would encourage you to find that out for your area, because it can depend how that's interpreted. So I would encourage you. And, one of the things is that, I mean, attorneys are great for legal information. And, a lot of them will give you, a short 15-minute consult, right? And it's a way to find out if you can communicate with them and understand what they're saying, right? And feel them out to maybe come at them with other information in the future. But you can kind of gather some information. Going into those organized and can be helpful though as well, so that you can make the best use of your time.
Thank you. I really appreciate your help.
Yeah, you're welcome, Carly. I wish you luck, and I can see you're new here, so welcome to Circles. I hope it's been a good experience for you. And I just want to recognize. Yeah. And I just want to recognize Candy in the chat. Candy, I'm sorry that it sounds like, a lot of what I'm talking about isn't a good fit for your situation. And I'm so sorry that it's gone that way. And
it's okay, Mikki. She left. She left the room. And it's okay. I see, don't worry. I see Candy all the time. I'll probably see her tomorrow. I do a trauma group in the morning. So I'll probably see her, and we can unpack some of those things too, because some of it, obviously there's the emotional component, and then there's the financial components to these things, and so no, it's totally fine. I'm not even worried. I'll see her tomorrow, I'm sure. So
okay,
Patty, it's okay. So Patty, you have your hand up, honey. Go ahead again.
Yeah, I was wondering, I have a meeting on the 29th. It's a case management conference. What do they do there?
So a case management conference, generally, did you or your husband file?
I filed. Yeah, I filed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the very first meeting. This is because somebody has filed, and it's your very first meeting. And it's just to kind of get a lay of the land. A lot of times it's kind of an intake, and it'll set the course for what's to come after that. If you are, they very well may encourage you toward some form of alternative dispute resolution, whether that's mediation or otherwise. And it sounds like probably the two of you have done disclosures already, Patty. Have you started that or no?
I filed, and they're supposed to, they had served him Friday, but I guess he wasn't home or something. I don't know. They didn't make contact. So I gotta wait. But I know I got this letter in the mail, so I know he had to get it too, because I got this one in the mail. Yeah. And it's got
Well, he'll have to know about that to show up and for it to be effective, I believe. But you know, if the financials have not been submitted, you know, they'll tell you guys to do that. I mean, you had to submit yours, right, as a part of filing.
Yeah,
yeah,
but I did that in my beginning. Yeah, I filed mine. Yeah. But
so he'll have to do that.
What will happen? Yeah, he'll do his part, right? When he gets served.
They may tell him to. That may be one of the things that happens at that initial case management conference is they may tell him, hey, you need to do this.
Yeah. Okay.
That'll be part of it.
Yeah. And then what happens? What are actually all the stages that I got to go after that? Usually. Yeah.
So they may, you know, they'll probably give a date that those financials have to be, you know, he needs to respond if he hasn't responded already. They'll give a date for that, and then they may set another court date at that time. You know, at that time, they may, as I said, encourage you to. They'll probably try to encourage the two of you to work out. You know, your what your settlement's going to be. You know, whether it's kid. You know, what you're going to decide about. I mean, there's 3 buckets in divorce generally. There's property, which is your assets and your liability.
Yeah. Okay. Because we didn't. Like I said, we didn't. Yeah, we don't have any kids. But the property. Like I said, we didn't buy or sell or nothing. And
right.
Yeah.
And then there's then there's support, which it sounds like you're not. I mean, there's no child support. There's no spousal support that you're looking at. No. I had a couple here that in my neighborhood, actually in Minnesota, who they did file together now, which is different than what you've done. And we're in the state of Minnesota, but they went to their ICMS, their initial case management, and they were granted their divorce right there. Wow. And they had a child. There was no property. There was no support. Yeah. There was a child. Yeah. But they were granted it then and there, which I hadn't actually heard of it happening quite that quickly. I thought you had to wait 2 weeks to get it in the mail. But yeah, so, you know, if he agrees, you know, it could be that he'll have to respond to the financials. It could be that you guys agree to it there and you guys may be done. It's hard to know. You'll have to walk that path and show up and see what happens. It may be very simple, or there may be, you know, it may be a next step and it become clearer to you.
Okay. Yeah.
Carly.
Because he's
I know, I'm cracking up.
Yeah, he had to get that paper because I got it in the mail, and it's got I got like about a week and a half ago. I mean,
well, it's always important in court that people have been served, and sometimes people have to pay to get it served or whatever. I mean, that's always an important.
Yeah, that part fact. In fact, what I did is I picked it up here because what it is, they have to mail it, and they said it takes like 4 days to go through the system. And then you can pick it up and actually take it there and have the sheriff. Mm-hmm. That's what I did to try to move it along. But the only thing is they went out and they didn't serve him, and I'm not sure. I mean, they did serve him, but I guess because I tried to tell him he's usually there after.
He wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah, or didn't answer.
Yep. And if they knock on the front porch, I don't think they can walk in the back. They're supposed to just go in the front.
And that's why it's hard that so often people get served at work because, which is, you know, feels humiliating to people, and I get it. But you know, that's where people can find people.
Well, that's the thing about
so it often happens there.
He works everywhere. He does. So he's like everywhere, all over. He doesn't have a specific job. That's the hard part.
Home is the best place to find him.
Yeah, if they just go to the front door, he lives on the back deck, so he's not going to hear them unless they walk out there. And I don't think they're supposed to.
Yeah. I hear you.
Mikki, I have a question for you as a divorce coach. I mean, you know, can you take us through the process of the coaching piece? Because, you know, do you get most of your clients that have already made up their mind that this is what they want to do, or you help them kind of navigate to get to the point where, they either want to stay or go? I mean, how
Mhm.
does that work as a divorce coach? I mean, is it separate as being a mediator? I mean, can you kind of walk us through that? Because it is such a unique niche in the coaching world.
Mhm. Yeah, Anna. So, divorce coaching is actually considered to be an alternative dispute resolution
Okay.
option, much like mediation is,
Okay.
and some others. So, it's actually helping someone. It's being a thinking partner and helping support someone through their thinking. Because when someone is going through a traumatic life experience like divorce, or separation, or the ending of their marriage, or family unit, as they have, it's a life quake, and it's upset everything in their life. And as we were it reminds me, as we were talking earlier about the holidays, another loss that some people have happened in separation and divorce is they've lost friends. They've lost,
Mm,
the other side of the
mhm.
family that in some cases
Yeah.
weren't always the enemy. um, and so there's more losses that have happened there too. But a divorce coach is basically an emotional support person, that a thinking partner that helps people to kind of grounds them when things are going crazy, and helps them to think through, and partners with them to show up the way they want to show up through their separation and through their divorce, and to navigate that process. Now, a divorce coach is not a neutral like a mediator is. It is
Mhm.
more. It can be more of a advocate piece, I would say. And some people are more strongly, I would say, bent as strategic advocates. And I mean that in the case of, for example, high conflict. High conflict can have its own strategies that are involved in it. It's not my particular style, but one example of high conflict strategy that those that do high conflict divorce, and that's their specialty, is that, and it's a reason I won't give out lists of recommended attorneys, is that, I mean, you can go into your town and you can meet with all of the good attorneys, and by doing that, you've actually cut off your spouse from being able to hire any of those people. So it's a
Oh.
strategy move that that some people need to do in their divorce, because it's just not going to. They have to be strategic in their divorce, and they can't amicably navigate it, unfortunately, because of who they're dealing with and the dynamics between them.
Mhm. Mhm. No, that makes sense. It's sad when, we have to resort to different tactics. But I love that you're there as an emotional support person. I love that that's what you call yourself. It's beautiful. So I know we have a few minutes left. Can you walk us through, Mikki, some of, you had said something earlier about, kind of how to use your time in the divorce process?
Mhm.
What does that mean? What do you mean by that? Like how to best use your separation and divorce time?
Yeah. So, Anna, I'm going to go back one step a little bit before
Okay.
that. And that is how to use your separation time. Because
Ah, perfect.
I think um, you're not divorced until you're legally divorced. And I know people can feel divorced before then emotionally, and like they haven't been in a marriage a long time, and so on and so forth. But if you the first is deciding if you're whether or not you're going to continue to engage in your marriage, or you're going to continue to fight for your marriage. And there are two resources in particular for anyone in that category. And sometimes people separate more than once, right? So they get back together and they may separate again. So there's two resources that I recommend for that. One is called discernment counseling. It was invented by a guy here in Minnesota at the University of Minnesota who's very well reputed. I just went to a training with him last month. And discernment counseling is helping a couple to decide where they're at and whether or not they want to try one last go, one more time. And it's generally 2 to 3 meetings with a discernment counselor, and they can be found at discernmentcounselors.com. And the decision that they're making in those 2 or so meetings is whether or not to spend the next 6 months in counseling, in marriage counseling. So the other piece is people who are considering divorce or separation is a contract for a healing separation. And I've worked with that with some clients, and that is, it was Bruce Fisher in Rebuilding When Your Relationship Ends that provides kind of a template, if you will, that can be molded to couples who are considering or doing a trial separation, if you will. For those who have decided and are moving forward with their divorce, how you spend your time, keep things small and manage your expectations while you're going through a separation or divorce. I would encourage you, self-care and slowing things down. Usually there's one person in a divorce that's trying to speed, wants to go faster, and the other one's and that's my job, is I'm slowing one person down and I'm picking the other person up to work together on a particular time frame. So one person is what we call leaning in, and the other one is leaning out. And so I would encourage you to have some patience, because once you are divorced, if you can, once you are divorced, it's going to be done. And in some cases, how you divorce is going to make a big difference, particularly if you have kids. And it can affect your healing, and maybe getting a divorce sooner is the best thing for your healing. But you want to be able to leave your divorce or your marriage as intact, mentally, emotionally, relationally as you can. So educate yourself during that time, whether that's your financial picture, whether that's your options. Definitely care for yourself. Do that self-care. Care for your children if you have kids. Build your support network. Circles is a great way to do that. But also, make new friends. Build relationships. Get out there as you're able. We're not always able every day, I get that. But as you're able, take those steps to build a support network, even if you're showing up here in bed, on Circles. We love to have you here. And this is a great support network.
It is a great support network, but I agree, Mikki, that, this is just one tool that we can utilize. Getting out there, face to face, having that human connection with family, making new friends, joining different groups, because a lot of people will say, they've lost their own identity in the process. They don't know what they like anymore because they're so used to being in partnership with another individual. So they have to kind of rediscover themselves and find themselves and what interests them. And I think that is so key in healing and moving forward. Any kind of support is going to be helpful, because we're not made to go through these types of things alone.
No, we aren't.
Yeah. So Debbie, I don't know, if any of you have any more thoughts or questions that you want to ask Mikki? I mean, we have her here as our expert. This is such a fascinating thing, Mikki. It's such a great topic. And not a lot of people are in your position of being an expert in this type of field. Go ahead, Patty, and then Carly.
Yeah, I was just wondering, like you said, like go there and everything's worked out. That's great, but if not, what does it go to? Like, do you have to get a mediator, or is it just something the court has? And I don't know. I'm really, because I'm trying to do as much myself as I can, and I'm not sure exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of people can self-file too, particularly, you know, there's three options with filing. I mean, there's self-file, there's, you know, hiring a scrivener or a paralegal, and then there's hiring an attorney. So there's different ways for the filing there. You know, if you're in agreement on things, Patty, you know,
Yeah.
and if your property is settled by agreement, I wouldn't expect that you would have more. What more is there to talk about?
Right.
If he's disputing something, or if he's not bringing forth information that the court needs, then, you know, maybe it's just going through the process and a technicality that you're just going to have to show up for another court appearance. But I don't know. If he hasn't been filed, you may not, that court appearance may get rescheduled.
Yeah.
So that's probably the most real possibility, based on what you're telling me here today, is that it may get delayed and rescheduled if he doesn't show.
Right.
Yeah. Or wasn't served.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I know they served him once, but I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. I told him. I told him today he gets after 3, and I told him about the back, but I don't. That's the best I could do. But thank you.
So you're
much.
communicating with him. You're in communication.
Not really. No. He's tried to, but he denies. He's somebody who doesn't tell the truth. He denies, like he sends stuff and he's like, he blames everything on me, and it's not. It's just everything. I can read it and just like lie. Everything is just fake. You know, he blames everything. Yeah, it's just, and it's not as he says. And same thing with working. If he has like, I have to put my W-2s or my money I made this year. I didn't make a whole heck of a lot, but like I just got my Social Security in September. And he gets like a fund, what do you call it, a pension. He gets 2 pension checks. But like if you go by income, like he gets money, but he works under the table. So if he don't put his money on there, I have to put mine.
Yeah,
that's his. He's not honest. He's not honest at all.
Sure. Yeah, it's a hard situation when you have someone, particularly that, you know, the money under the table, the cash, and you know, lying on taxes or having a Cayman account, or you know, whatever it might be. Those can get really expensive when you know, people are in dispute. But Patty, you're not looking for that, so
no,
I'm not sure why.
I just want a signature. I just want a signature. I want to go my own way. That's all I ask for. I don't care if he has the 200. Well, he's got a big, like I said, thing he got from his mom. In that he's got a lot. I mean, several thousands in there, and I don't even want that. I just want a signature. I just want to go.
Well, and see, like in Minnesota, inheritance can be treated different. It depends on how it's treated after inheritance. Yeah. So inheritance may not even be part of the marital estate. But income is. So whatever you earned, whatever he earned, you know, for example, here, that's marital. It doesn't matter if he worked harder or you earned more. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
But and I was gonna say something else too. Oh my gosh. Go ahead. I forgot my train of thought. But
so we only have a couple of minutes left, and I want to make sure Carly gets her question in. And also, Debbie asked something in the chat. You know, about parenting classes through divorce, through the courts with the divorce. So I'd like to get those in because we only have a couple of minutes. So Carly, go ahead, and then I don't know, Mikki, if you can answer Debbie's question before we pop off. Hi, Shannon. Welcome. Go ahead, Carly.
Thank you. I guess so. If I wanted to start the clock sooner rather than later, knowing that we're going to work with a mediator, is it okay that I'm filing independent as a self-representative, and then when we work the mediator, all the other paperwork kind of works itself out with them? Or am I setting myself up for something if I say I'm representing myself when filing?
So you mean when you're filing, instead of together, you're filing yourself for divorce? Is that what you mean, Carly?
Well,
Or you
when we
mean
do,
without an attorney?
yeah, just for the just to get the clock started with the first,
Mm-hmm.
there's two forms that I have to fill out. One just saying
Okay.
I acknowledge I want a divorce, and
Mm-hmm.
then the summons for the spouse. And so there's a category where you have to say like if you have an attorney or if you're representing yourself. And so in this case,
Oh,
since we don't have an attorney
no,
hired yet or a
no,
mediator hired
that
yet,
doesn't
is it
matter.
okay to, it doesn't matter. Like they're not going to say,
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely. You can get an attorney at any time you want.
Mhm.
And mediation doesn't preclude you from that either. And you can have your attorney in mediation, or you can have them on call. I mean, it costs a lot to have a lot of specialists in mediation because you're paying, I mean, I'm a flat rate generally, but a lot of times you're paying per hour for the mediator. You're paying per hour for each of the attorneys. You're paying per hour for any of the other specialists. If there's a forensic accountant, if there's a CDFA, if there's whatever else, CPA, you're paying. So it can get very expensive that way. So sometimes they'll have them on call or things like that. So no, saying that you're unrepresented does not mean, it doesn't preclude you from getting an attorney, hiring or firing an attorney, or getting another one.
Okay. And then I guess when I know we're running out of time, but what are some things that clients come to you with where you kind of go, oh, I wish you would have talked to me sooner. Like that makes
That's a great
everybody's life
question.
easier.
Yeah.
Like what are some please don't do
Yeah.
this, like it help me help you situation?
Generally, I'd say don't file on the other, but it really depends on your situation as to whether you can do that together. I'd rather people contact me before they filed, because I mean, you can file and you can say, okay, hold it. We're working with a mediator. We'll pick this back up, right? So you can stop the court process to do that. You have to let them know that. But generally it's smoother if they'll contact me first before filing, at least in my state. So for what that's worth.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And Debbie said, are there usually parenting classes through the courts with a divorce? So at least in my state, there are parenting classes. They're not always required. It depends. It can be as much as $400. It just depends. A lot of them are run through like the extension service here for the university. Private parties sometimes do it, but you want to make sure that they're approved by the court if it's a court requirement. And sometimes the court will require parenting classes if there is a child. There will always be at least an ICMS, an initial case management meeting for your divorce if you have children, at least in our state, to make sure that your children are taken care of. Even if you agree on everything else, they want to make sure that the kids are good.
Thank you for that,
Great
Mikki.
question.
Yeah, very good question. You guys, we have to leave it here tonight. I'm sorry. I know it's 11 o'clock and I need to go on to the next thing. But I want to thank you, Mikki, for your expertise and joining us. I want to thank all of you for, spending your evening with us. If you have more questions for Mikki, Mikki does groups here during the week. Mikki, when are you on with Circles?
Yeah, so I'm on with Circles on Mondays. Well, at this time on Mondays, usually. I actually got out of my group to be here tonight, so thank you.
Thank you.
I'm also on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern time.
Okay, perfect.
And then I have a building
Beautiful.
resilience and coping on Monday
Yes.
mornings.
Definitely. And Jeannie, you can reach out to Mikki privately through her chat here or her group chat. She has a group chat if you look up her name. And also, Mikki, if you click on Mikki's bio, it should tell you about Mikki and her expertise in coaching, and you can get a hold of her for her private practice for her coaching and her expertise in that. But definitely I would, attend some of her groups, and you can look for her in her own group chat, or you can DM her privately. Just look up her name and you can send her a message. Is that right, Mikki?
That's right.
Okay, yay. Well, okay, you guys, I'm
I'll-
sending you
I'll-
big
I'll-
hugs.
I'm sending her
Okay.
hugs right now. I'm in real.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you so
everyone.
much,
Nice to
you
meet
guys.
you.
Have a great night. Good night, you
Thank
guys. See
you
you
so
next
much.
Monday. Another master class next Monday night, 10 o'clock. Join us. Bye, you guys.
Bye.